For section 5.2, day 2, we start off by doing just a simple review of what we learned yesterday about probability, and then we'll end the day with a bit of the formal notation. How do you write some of these ideas down in kind of university level symbols? It's always good to wait with that. Once you get a full understanding of the ideas, then the formal notation does not scare you. Now, here is what we have. We start off with a probability idea. I've abbreviated it. I wrote down in the PDF notes, the probability of you doing math tomorrow is 2 over 20. And then we're going to look at odds in favor and odds against. Most people in the world have a healthy understanding of probability before they even study it in a stats course, and most people in the world never get to studying it in a stats course. We say a lot of these words, we just don't always know exactly what we're saying. So to start off with, probability. Probability is stated first and foremost as a fraction. That's something that not everyone really understands. So when we say the probability of studying math tomorrow is 2 over 20, what it means is you have 2 chances of studying it out of a total of 20. I know that seems rather awkward, feels better when you roll a die or flip a coin or draw a card. Now, here is where most people, outside of people who study stats, don't really understand the difference between probability and then things called odds in favor, odds against. Even though you use these words in daily life quite often, whether you watch sports, whether you buy lottery tickets, you have to kind of understand that they're all actually used in the real world. So here is how it begins. If you were going to figure out what is the odds in favor of doing math tomorrow, odds in favor would be 2, and then you often write it with a colon, 18. You could write it as a fraction, 2 over 18, but most textbooks will write it this way. And then what does it actually mean? Odds in favor takes whatever the event is, we'll just call it C, because we need some kind of symbol for this event. You could even use an M to stand for math. And what it means is, this is the favorable things, so doing math, favorable if you actually like math. This other one, the complement, well, that's everything but the 2, so 18. That is the unfavorable, that is the not doing math. That's all it simply is. So often in the real world again, people say these wrong. If I say flip a coin, what are the chances of it being heads? Well, many people say it's 50-50. They're actually not saying the probability, they're saying the odds in favor. Are they very connected? Absolutely, but they're not actually the same. Then, what are the odds against, which is also a kind of a commonly used real world thing. Odds against is when you just flip odds in favor around. Now you're saying unfavorable, so not doing math, to favorable, so the 2. Now, here's how you can change the question to kind of mesh these 3 ideas together, but it's not scary. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm making this up. It's not going to snow tonight. The way this question is worded is it says odds against snow tonight is 19:6. Now, first of all, this is not a probability, even though you could write it as a fraction like 19 over top of 6. This is saying an odds against. So this is saying the C prime to the C. This is the unfavorable, because I'm done with snow, and this is the favorable. I don't want snow anymore. If I said, what are the odds in favor? Well, we have to switch it. It simply switches to 6:19. You're just simply switching the order. And once you understand that and memorize it, that is not a hard idea. Now, if you guys look in the PDF notes, when I say then, what is the probability? This is where, again, if you pay attention to the details, really understand what are the different terms, this is not a hard question. Okay? So letter C says, what is the probability of us getting snow tonight? That is not in the PDF notes yet. It was not on my little mini whiteboard yet. We have not written that down. We wrote down the odds against snow was 19:6. So what is the probability of actually getting snow? Well, it starts with the favorable up top. That would be a 6. But then in probability, you always put the total. You do not put a 19 down here. The total of favorable and unfavorable is 25. That's like the total of the event. I know, again, it seems awkward, total of snow being 25. It makes more sense when you have a deck of cards and you have 52 cards, or you have a die and there's 6 sides. But this would be the way you could get the total probability. Now, in your notes, what you see right here is an E. And that's just, again, symbols that university professors use. It's the probability of this event. Some of them even put an S. They just code it, S standing for snow, or you could even write the whole word down. So don't let that scare you. And then the final question. Sorry, I made a little mistake. This is a B. The final question was then, well, what would the probability be that there is no snow tonight? Well, this is truly where that complement comes in. The probability of not getting snow, the probability of this event, I'll just go to the E that's in the notes, would be everything but that. Okay, so probability is always over the total, so it's a 25. And what is the everything but, or the stuff you don't want? Well, that was the 19. Now, here's where we go to the formal notation. And this, I waited till now, till the end of the second day to show it, simply because now I hope it makes a lot more sense. If I would have started this way, it might have scared you guys. So what it talks about in number 3 is it's saying, let's say you take the probability of any event, okay, whether it be snow or math or cards, whatever. And then we talked about the complement, the everything but. Okay, so I'll just abbreviate the complement. The complement isn't hard. First of all, just a random one. Let's say I said the chances of rain tonight are 95%. Well, then the chances of not getting rain, the complement, are 5%, the everything but. And when you really think about it, 100% is just the number 1. And if you go 1 minus, that will give us what we need. That will give us the complement, which was always the symbol, the little prime. And you can write it in ways that look weird, but it's always been the prime. And even if you think of the fractions, okay, don't write this down unless you really think you need to, but right here, okay, this 19 over 25, well, that wasn't hard math, but this is really what it is. What you're doing is you're saying 1 subtract 6 over 25. Well, just think old school, 1 over 1, get a common denominator, that's 25 over 25. Okay, so it's 1 minus, and then 25 over 25 minus 6 over 25, well, that's your 19. Not that you do that a lot. Usually you just use your common sense to logic your way into it, but that would be then what the complement is. And you guys, it can be done in any way. And now I'll backtrack. Anytime you do probability, you usually think of it first as a fraction. You could divide this in your calculator to get 2.24. So a fraction is a decimal. And you can answer probability that way. And you can also go to a percent. And they're all useful in their own ways. If you think of cards, well, maybe fractions are better. If you think of weather, snow and rain, well, maybe a percent makes more sense. So you just use whichever one is better for your context. Now, the final thing I wrote down, okay, is one where you may or may not ever really use this, but we'll say it anyway. So let's say you had a certain odds in favor. And it was like an M to an N. It might be the one that we did. Maybe it was the odds in favor of snow are 6 to 19. The question that we just finished looking at. If we were supposed to then look at, well, what would be the probability of the event? Well, the probability was 6 over top of the total 25. If you wanted to, you could write it down in the most fancy way. The 6 was the M. The 25 was the M plus the N. That would be a formal way to say the probability given the odds in favor, or odds against if you want. These two here, if you really understand them, they may never make it onto a study sheet, but they are the formal notation. Don't let them scare you, but they are the way to formally address the above issues.